Hi, in this lesson, let's work on fetching our ideas on the ideas page from the backend. So, let's get started. For this, we need to create a new route. This route will be called getIdea. Use descriptive names to make it clear what these routes do. Well, by analogy, it is essentially a tRPC procedure. However, importantly, from the front end, we will send information about what nickname this idea has. Based on it, you'll need to fetch. So you see, unlike this procedure, we will have some input parameters. How are input parameters defined in tRPC? We write tRPC.procedure in the same way. Then we write input. And in input, we need to pass the so-called Zod schema. What is a Zod schema? A Zod schema is a thing provided by the Zod library. The Zod library is essential for anyone coding in TypeScript. It allows you to validate and type data simultaneously. Let's install it. So, pnpm. In the backend, install Zod. Installing. And import it. Yes. Zod? Correct. Now let's see how the input schema is described. So actually, what do I want? For the input to come as an object that contains an ID and a nickname stored as a string. And this is done quite intuitively. Zod object. Well, not just the nickname, but ID and nickname. I love full names. Z-string. Right? In Zod's documentation, you can read how all these structures are described, and they are really very intuitive. And we'll write more structures. So basically, you'll fully understand this Zod in this course. All right, we set up the input, and the rest is quite similar. We still call the query exactly the same way, and it receives the input. It just looks like this, and the input type is already ID and nick string. It knows its type because we pass this input here. All right? And now here we need to return the ID itself. So, this is the format it suggests. Look, we take the ID from the IDS array. We perform a find, meaning a search, iterating through all elements of the IDS array. They will enter this function, and here we will compare their nick with the given one. The ZodNick idea is our given ID and nick. And as soon as it finds the first match, it will return it. If it doesn't find a match, undefined will be returned here. We can see that the idea is either this object or undefined, and then it suggests throwing an error if there is no idea. This is a good format too, and we will use it as well. But for now, let's use a different model. So, we will return either ideas or a single idea. If it doesn't exist, let it return null. Based on this, we'll decide on the front end what to do with it. Let it be like this for now. Later, we'll look at other options. This will be enough for now, so I can remove this error. Great, we've created this endpoint. Now let's call it from the front end. It's very similar to what we see here. We can even copy this. So, we need to import tRPC. And now it's not get ideas, but get idea. And it works correctly. It's complaining. It says we lost input. Let's add this input. And it's done intuitively. Idea ID, set the idea ID, great. And we see that the data is coming. But it can be undefined because there might be some loading time. But when it arrives, there will be an idea which is either an object or null. Let's handle the case when null comes in. For this, we simply need to add this. If there are no ideas in the data parameters, and as you can see, it's already literally like this, then we output the message idea not found. But if it's found, our code will proceed, and we will be able to display what's needed here. Data idea. At this point, idea can no longer be null because we checked it here. Data idea.name. Here we will have the description. Data idea description. Here we need to display the text. And we have text. As you remember, it really looks like this, but it's a string. If we do it this way now, let's just try for demonstration. Data.idea.text. We will see what we get. Let's take a look. So we've set it up and everything is great except for this text. We want it to remain not as text, but to stay in a format like HTML. For this, React has a specific method, and it's called dangerously set inner HTML. Why is it so scary? Because it is really scary, since if we don't trust this data, various JavaScripts can be inserted into this HTML, and they can be malicious. But now we are completely satisfied with this. Good. This is how it's done. Just this kind of construction. We specified that the HTML from this variable should be inserted into this div. Let's see what we got. We got exactly what we needed. We moved to another idea, for example, the 26th, and we received what is stored in the backend for the 26th idea. And now we'll move to some non-existent idea, and we see that idea not found. This is how we created our endpoint that can accept parameters, both on the back end and called it from the front end. Congratulations on that. Let's move on.